to the MandaLOREians Explosion Network's Aftershow for The Mandalorian, breaking down, discussing, and reviewing each episode of the Disney Plus original series. My name is Dylan Blight. Joining me, Ashley Hobley.
Hey Dylan, excited to be here to talk about the prequels.
Are we talking about the prequels today?
Doing, right?
I mean, the original movies, I guess, would be the
Phantom Menace. We're back there again.
Oh, that's, the one everyone thinks of. Phantom Menace.
You mentioned Tatooine, you think the Phantom Menace.
I don't think that's, maybe for you. I mean, maybe. I think episode 6. How about that? How about that for a spin on the thing? Anyway, yeah, this week's episode is...
Wait. Oh, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they're there. They don't go to where we go, but they're there. So chapter 5 this week, the episode was titled The Gunslinger. It was directed by Dave Filoni. It was written by Dave Filoni. It was the first episode to break away from being written by Jon Favreau, who had written the previous 4. So there you go. Synopsis I wrote down for this one was the Mando ends up on a very familiar planet and helping out a rookie bounty hunter who's in over his head. What were your overall thoughts on this week's episode? Did anything stand out to you? What was your favorite moment?
I mean, it's a good episode. I don't think it's the best one so far. It's enjoyable. It's fine. I mean, we get more of the Mandalorian. We get more of Yoda. We get Tatooine, which is crazy that we're back on Tatooine. Of all planets that we could be exploring, we're back on Tatooine. And for that to be the planet that has got the shot of the Imperials, the stormtroopers with their heads impaled.
It's like one of the most famous shots from the trailer, and we only just now found out it's actually from Tatooine the entire time. So,
which is weird because I don't ever recall seeing stormtroopers on Tatooine. So,
in the original movie,
are they? Oh yeah, I guess they are. Yeah. I haven't seen
literally the most famous, like, you'll let us pass now. We will let you, Jedi mind trick.
I thought that was Tatooine.
Yeah. I think your mind just completely wiped it.
Completely blanked, yeah. So,
they all get sent down after some droids happen to disappear there. They literally burn Luke's aunt and uncle alive.
Now that you mention it.
They do some pretty big things on the planet. Was they there? Did they leave their mark on the planet? I don't know.
Not really.
No. Just those scoldering bodies. I would say the episode was okay. It definitely felt the least eventful, and I think that's why the internet's kind of the Mandalorian shit now.
People are starting to turn on this show.
Quite drastically. Yeah, I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, it's quite interesting because I'm one that's like, I stopped watching all those CW shows because they, there's only so much time, blah, 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 move on. People are like, two episodes of okay, and they're like, I'm out. Fuck, shit, what a bash.
No, it's not that it's okay. It's still good, I think. I think people can say it's good. It's just not what people expect or want, especially after the first 3 episodes where it felt like a cohesive narrative and it was going to be one running through the entire 8-episode thing. Whereas the first 3 episodes are a story contained to itself, kind of, and now each episode, it feels like, is its own self-contained story.
Yeah, but...
Which is not what people were looking for, I don't think.
Isn't it not just still part of the same story? Like, he's literally on the run now. Like, that's part of the story.
But I think it's more, not serialized, but a bit more, one and done stories.
I guess, but like...
Which is not what people wanted. They want everything to be tied together, everything to be connected every episode.
Yeah.
Which isn't what the show is.
I would argue it still kind of is. It's just that what's happening now is literally leading to having one and done stories fit. You know what I mean? Like the first 3 episodes where he gets a mission, that leads him to Yeetle, and now he's on the run. And now that he's on the run, it kind of fits that he's bumping into random planets and people. That just fits with what's happening. You know what I mean? Like it's still part of the story.
I mean, yeah, it's still, but for some people, they can't. It's not working for them, I guess.
The other thing I find quite interesting when people talk about like filler episodes for TV, you know what I mean? Like what is a quote-unquote filler episode when I can't remember where I read this. I read this years ago. Someone explained, like, boiled it down as like, if you think about your life and if your life was a TV show, how many moments of your life would be filler TV? You know, like, there's not always something in your own life happening that's so eventful. Like, if you was to turn your life into a TV show, you'd be like, well, yeah, they'd cut like one moment from that year would stand out. You know, like all these like nothing moments, but it's still what makes up your life's story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't really know what a quote unquote filler episode is if we're still building and expanding on the Mandalorian as a character, which is what this episode does.
I think people are viewing filler episodes as episodes that don't progress the main plot of the series. I think you look at that list that came out recently of episodes you need to watch in the Clone Wars. Mm-hmm. It's like everything else is filler, technically.
But I would argue it's not.
Yes, that's some of those episodes that don't seem like they're important at the time end up being very important or show aspects of the character that prove more important down the line. I mean,
yes. Sometimes it's just like
I saw somebody go, why the hell did they have that episode of the Space Whales in Rebels? That was some stupid filler episode.
That's what I was going to bring up.
Becomes important.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to bring up for this. As soon as the episode finished, and I could tell that people were going to have a problem with it, and of course they did. My number one thing I was going to bring up was the stupid fucking space whales, and I guess this kind of plays into how I feel about the episode straight away, because obviously I really like Dave Filoni, so I might be a little bit biased towards everything, but also I've been watching Dave Filoni's stories and stuff, you know, Clone Wars, Rebels, blah, blah, blah. And the space whales is the number one thing that stands out as when they showed that episode in season 3 of Rebels, we were like, why the fuck did we just do an entire episode where the gang of the rebels, they bump into some space whales in the middle of nowhere, and then that's the episode. You're like, oh, cool, they're called this, blah, 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 have a bit of an adventure. And then the next episode, it was back to like being more to do with the proper quote-unquote story. And little did we know, a season later, those space whales were going to be super important to literally the season finale of the show. That was a season later. So I think because of that, and Dave Filoni's done this for many other things, he will put a red herring in one season and it won't come up until like maybe 2 seasons later. For that reason alone, I refuse to believe he would do something. He would do an episode that's quote unquote filler. I just don't believe it, you know? So It's also like, it's set on Tatooine, which a lot of people had a problem with that.
That's significant enough.
That is significant enough, but I also want to point out for people who are like, oh, the chances of them bumping into Tatooine now, they're just really playing. The whole show's literally taking place it's taking place in the Outer Rim. You know, like, no, it's like, it's not, he's not traveling the entire galaxy. He's in like the outer regions. So bumping into Tatooine his chances of coming there are higher because he's traveling in certain sections. He's not traveling too close to where the New Republic and all this shit is, obviously. He doesn't want to go near there, so he's keeping to the outer regions. That's where all these planets are. That's where all the bounty hunters and Hutts and everyone else hung out. That's where we know they all hang out, outside of the rules and whatever else. So that makes sense. But yeah, again, it's like it's set on Tatooine. I don't believe that would just be done for shits and giggles. And there's lots of interesting tidbits in here and whatever else. But I'd say again, it's like there could be something in here that everyone's glossing over, that by the end of the season, next season, we're suddenly like, that was important because reason, blah, 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 blah. But again, even just judging it as a contained story, I would say it was fine. I don't need every episode to be, whoa, this was a fine episode. I still enjoyed it. It's fucking Star Wars. They're on fucking Tatooine. They're doing shit. It was a fine episode. Would I give it 10 out of 10? No. Doesn't need to be. I don't care. Anyway, let's get into the actual episode. So, episode opens with the Mando being blasted in space by someone after Yeetle, obviously. His engine is taken out, and then the guy says, I can bring you in warm, I can bring you in cold. And then the Mando, of course, slams his brakes on and like kind of hits his ship and then spins him out and then shoots him and destroys him.
It really breaks in space.
I don't know how it works. Really. Either way, he can like turns his thrusters off. I don't know, whatever he does. And then shoots him and blows him up and then says, "That's my line." And then we get the title card. So, I mean, if you hate the corniness of some lines in the show so far, this one would be sitting up like up there.
Yeah, that's pretty high.
It was pretty high. But it was an interesting way to, start the show with a bit of a space battle, of course. Small space battle, but we don't usually see them.
Very small.
So, cool. Then
first live action space battle in Star Wars.
Dogfight?
On TV.
On TV? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, it's true. I mean, everything in this show is going to be the first something for a live action TV Star Wars show. So you're going to win no matter what you say it is. So then he begins losing fuel to his ship, and the engines are
understandable.
Messing up.
He let him crash into him. That was his plan.
He also let him shoot him a lot. So that was probably
a lot.
The start of your problems right there. I did like how Yeatl's in the corner laughing about this as everything's happening. He's like, and so it's like, oh God.
Yeah.
You can't be angry at the baby when it's laughing because it's too cute. Gets away with it. Gets a free pass for these sorts of things. It's what babies do. They get free passes. So then Mando spots the closest ship and closest planet, sorry. He cycles the ship systems and then he manages to fly on over to that planet, which happens to be Tatooine. And we find this out, of course, as he's like calls in and asks for permission to land. And they're like, oh, you can park at Mos Eisley Tower, something. So, of course, anyone sitting there at home watching this, as soon as they say that, you're like, because from the outset, you don't, I mean, we've seen about 10 million different fucking sand plants in Star Wars at this stage. I don't see the planet and go, that's Tatooine. As soon as I said Mos Eisley, I was like, that's Tatooine. That's exciting.
No.
Here we go.
I didn't clue in.
Yeah, well, you also didn't realize there was fucking stormtroopers on the planet. So at this stage, I'm not really surprised at all.
You don't know. There's a gazillion planets in this universe, potentially. There could be multiple Mos Eisleys.
I mean, I can't for sure say no, but...
How many Springfields are there in the world?
In the world?
Hundreds, probably.
Or do you mean on Earth?
On Earth.
Yeah, I'd like to think in the world of Star Wars, people are a little bit more...
No, there's definitely a few Springfields in Star Wars.
Possibly. You know the reason lots of stuff is named the same on Earth, though? Colonization.
Lazy.
No, colonization. It's because they named it first in England, then they went to a different country and kicked all the people that live there out, and then they named the same shit.
New Springfield.
Yeah, exactly.
New thing, and then it gets old, so then they drop the new.
These places in Australia. I mean, not really the show to get into.
5 more years, it's just going to be York.
Australia we live in, when there was all these places had really unique names. They aren't what we call them though, because they were renamed by white people. So continue on. So Mando then lands at Mos Eisley Tower, and then he pisses off straight away the local lady there because the gonk droids come out and they run out, guess wanting to fix the ship straight away or whatever. And then of course we know that Mando hates droids, so he begins like kicking them or whatever, and that doesn't go down too well. So then the Mando leaves 500 credits with the engineer lady. I'm not sure if she's I wrote down engineer, but it's like, I think she just kind of was the boss of the section, but the droids were like the proper engineers. Anyway, her name's Peli Motto, and she's played by Amy Sedaris.
Yep.
Which was interesting. I really did not recognize her until after the episode and the credits rolled. Did not recognize her at all.
It's the hair, and I don't know, they did something with the eyebrows, I think.
Everything. She did not. I was like, as soon as it came up with the name, I was like, from Elf? Because that's all I think of. I mean, people know from more famous things, I guess. But so yeah, he gives her 500 credits and says he'll come up with from what?
BoJack Horseman. She voices one of the voices.
He leaves her 500 credits and says that he'll come up with money to fix the rest of the ship. And then she's like,
Imperial credits.
Yeah, which I guess is important.
Which I feel is kind of important because they don't hold much value, I guess.
Yeah. And she's like,
well, when you consider that at the start of the season, the Mando didn't want to get paid in Imperial credits.
Well, yeah. I think so far in this show, it's kind of shown that because the galaxy's still in such an influx that it's like all sorts of currencies.
Any currency will do.
Yeah. It's like some is worth more than others in different places, blah, blah, blah. I would assume that.
I mean, there's a certain alien creature that didn't take Imperial credits or Galactic credits in one of the films. on Tatooine. So,
There you go. All makes sense.
our hero Watto, he wouldn't take any credits.
No. Did you say our hero, Watto? So the Mando then heads out. Yeah, he heads out to the city to find the job to help pay the lady to fix his ship. I mean, this whole episode is literally just. That's what I'm saying. It all makes sense to me. That's what I'm saying. Like, he's on the run. The end of the last episode sets up the bounty hunters after him. The episode starts with a bounty hunter after him. That bounty hunter happens to fuck up his ship. This episode is literally just all. His goal is to fix his ship. That is the whole episode. If you want the objective of the episode, like, what's this have to do with the story? He needs his ship fixed. The bounty hunter shot it down. He needs to get away. It's not like a. It's part of. I don't get it. So back at the ship, though, we do see that Yeatle has woken up. Yeah.
Again, this is an important factor. He left Yeatle alone.
Yeah, no, everyone's
something prior to last episode he definitely wouldn't have done. That time in that village, he's got lazy. He's like, I'll leave Yeatle to go about his business, making friends with little kids and shit.
Maybe. Well, I was like, I don't know if he left him alone because he's like, oh, Yeatle can look after himself now, or he just didn't want to bring Yeatle out into public. But then also, if it's option B,
why wouldn't you lock the ship?
Yeah, like lock the back door or something, my dude. But maybe he needed to leave it open for the ship to get fixed, and he thought, I don't know.
He could have put him in stick him in that bathroom you saw at the start of the season.
Well, you'd think you'd learn after last episode where Yeatle refused to stay on the ship that it ain't going to stay on the ship. So, well, he doesn't. Yeah, you'd think he would learn. But Yeatle wakes up and we get this whole funny moment where you hear the ship opening and someone's like coming out, and then Pelly's like
holding a rifle.
Yeah, Pelly like grabs a rifle and like, watch the ship. Like she like points and it's like, you'll come out now slowly, or whatever else. And then out comes Yeatle just like, hey, hi guys. Yeah, just
refreshed.
Like waking up after a good night's sleep. So that was quite funny. And she's straight away like, don't know what you are, but you're cute, which is the automatic response of the galaxy.
Normal response, yeah.
Yeah, normal response by everyone. So she picks him up and begins talking to him, which was nice to see. I really enjoyed her in this episode. She was like a nice degree of like comedic relief and whatever else. And she wasn't like a big mean lady or a big good lady. She was just kind of like, like, I'll help you, but sure, give me the credits, like, like other sort of stuff. It was quite good. The quote I wrote down for the line that made me laugh the most was, did that bounty hunter leave you all alone in that big ship? Like when she picks him up and stuff. So I thought that was quite funny. Then we go to the Mando and he enters the cantina. And this whole scene, of course, you could write off as just what's the word? Nostalgia stuff. But I don't buy it being nostalgia, because nostalgia would have been Mando walks in, like everything's happening.
Yeah.
That's nostalgia. This scene isn't nostalgia because it's showing you something that we know, but I mean, bringing back the subverting expectations that everyone loves from The Last Jedi. It's literally the opposite of everything that you would expect to see in here. Like from the outside, it looks very much like the cantina. Like when he's entering the doorway, they've done a really good job of recreating the way it looks from the movie. But as soon as Mando enters, my first thought was like, there's fucking droids in here. Like, what is going on? There's droids in here. And that's obviously the thing that stands out the most. Of course, in episode 4, when C-3PO tries to get into the place, leave, we don't serve your kind in here. He gets told to get the hell out of there. So there was no droids allowed in the place at that time. Now, I will say, for like what we know from, I think it was from a certain point of view book. They confirmed a Legends storyline and made it like kind of canon, where this place is actually run by a Wookiee, a really old Wookiee. We never see him in the movie, of course, or anything like that. But like the manager of the place or whatever is a Wookiee. So whether or not that still stands at this point, I don't know. What happened to all the other people we know? Why is the place run down? All these sorts of things. Why is there now droids in there? The next important thing that comes up that leads to more questions is, of course, the Mando walks straight up to the droid and basically asks him for a job. The droid says that the Bounty Guild doesn't work there anymore, all these sorts of things. I think all of this comes back to Jabba dying, and then the New Republic and all that, I guess, could play into it. But it's like,
no succession plan.
No, I mean, I guess not.
But when you think about it, the Hutts were meant to be like a big gangster family.
They're a cartel.
Why didn't somebody rise up?
I mean, I guess he didn't have a son.
That's the spin-off I want. The Hutts. It's Godfather style movie.
Some of the Clone Wars episodes do show that they are very much like a cartel. They have a Hutt character in the Clone Wars that's basically written like
the
a
Sopranos,
fucking 50s gangster.
But the Hutts, that's what I want.
I mean,
Disney Plus.
Yeah, I'd watch it. I'd watch anything Star Wars, to be honest, but I'd watch it. Not to be biased, but yeah, so I thought this was quite interesting, of course. It's just like, did it all just go to shit as soon as Jabba died? Did no one come in? But I guess my one problem with putting everything on Jabba is like, if you think about the way the criminal world has worked throughout like human history, like if you killed a leader or like whatever one place, then someone else comes in and take over. You know what I mean? And in Star Wars, we know there are lots of different groups of criminal enterprises. And we know up until episode 7, there's several groups of criminal enterprises, like the two lots that Han has come after him in episode 7, where we get the worst scene in the movie. So we know criminal groups continue until then. It's like, but why hasn't anyone come in if the Hutts are like wiped out? Why hasn't another one come in to take over is my question. I don't know. There's lots of...
Maybe they have, and they just don't like the Mosley Cantina.
Maybe, I don't know. It makes me wonder what the hell's happening up at Jabba's palace. Like, there's someone just in the room, like just constantly sweeping with a broom. Like,
the guy is still mourning.
Yeah, maybe. Just crying over Jabba's body. I mean, what a sad novel that would be. But then, the Mando can't get a job, and he kind of, I guess, is going to leave. But then a man calls out from behind him, and we go to a shot that, of course, is supposed to replicate how Han is, sitting feet up on it's literally Han's table. But again, it's like the complete switch of kind of character and whatever else. The guy looks cocky and whatever else, but he's literally he's closer to Han from like Solo than Han from A New Hope, he's in over his head, he's cocky, he doesn't really know anything, blah, 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 blah. And he's named Toro Calican and is played by one Jake Cannavale, which I did not know that Bobby had a son. But there we go. You learn something every day. Was that you a real? Was that a really like a legit or a sarcastic? Real?
That's a legit, really.
Yeah, Bobby Cannavale's son, Jake Cannavale. There you go. So he says to Mando that he has a job and he wants the Mando's help with it. The Mando asks what the job is, and he brings up a picture, and it's Fennec Shard. Or Shand. I wrote down Shand. I'm not sure if that's right, but I'm going with it anyway. Fennec Shand is the person that he's after. The Mando says that he's out because Fennec Shand has worked with the Hutts and lots of cartels and it's big, dangerous, and he basically wants nothing to do with it. So he goes to walk away at first, but then Toro calls for help again and says that he doesn't care about any of the money. Mando can have all the money from the job. Fennec just wants... Toro just wants the job done so he can basically get the reputation points from it to be able to enter the Bounty Guild finally.
The guild.
His whole mission here literally sounds like something out of a fucking video game when you think about it. I need the experience points to level up.
Kind of,
yeah. So then Mando agrees to it and he says he'll meet him in half an hour, blah, 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 blah. Bring us some form of transportation. So off he goes. The Mando returns to his ship to find Yeatle missing. I did like to... So the thing here that shows that he's still so naive and dumb is he walks onto that ship, goes to find Yeatle, and then as soon as he realizes Yeatle isn't there, the way he very quickly runs out of ship. So he's like, what the fuck? But I'm still just like, dude... The fucking thing followed you, was out of the ship. It literally won't, will not stay still, but for some reason you keep expecting it to stay still. He finds it with, I've already forgot her name. Where the hell is it? I already forgot it. Pelly, right. Too many new people's names this episode. I'm trying to remember. Can't keep up with
2
them.
so far.
3,
I guess.
Too many, some would argue, too many. No?
I mean, it's astounding when you think about how few people are in a lot of these episodes.
Like previous ones?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess last week there was only one name. I don't know if we even learnt the name of, what's his fuck from The Good Place? I don't know if we even knew that. Yeah. I never knew if we knew his
just Pillboy.
Yeah,
Pillboy
in space. Pillboy in space. So he talks to her, talks about Yeadle. She says, she basically asks for a bit more money for looking after him. And then he joins up with Toro and they head off on speeder bikes into the desert. The speeder bikes they on look very much like the one Anakin uses to go after the Tusken Raiders in Attack of the Clones.
Yeah. Speaking of.
Yeah, whether they're the exact same ones, don't know. But either way, they go a long way. I don't want to point out before we get to that, I really like the shot of just the camera like following the bikes. I really like that shot. That was very Star Warsy, Tatooine. That was like fan servicey to me to show that sort of shot. That's like, but then they stop. Well, the Mando calls them out and says, "We stop for a second," and they stop because up ahead they have spotted a G-back. I guess like Tusken Raiders, or what assumes to be Tusken Raiders. Dude, he pulls out his binoculars. They look out and they're like, "Oh, look, Tusken Raiders down there." And then the Mando's like, "Yeah, and there's some up here too." I like the way they kind of cut this because it's like they're doing it all through the binocs, like Luke in episode 4 and everything. It's like, duh, duh, duh. And then you hear the Mando say that and like literally cuts back and he's got these 2 Tusken Raiders like standing right next to him. It's quite funny. And this again, you could go with fan service and have them all fight and all this sort of stuff, but we don't end up doing that. What actually ends up happening is they end up bartering, and I really like this because Tusken Raiders have always like been just shown to be these feral animals and whatever else, but the way they paint them in this episode is more like they are the natives to Tatooine and everyone else is not. And what they do is because their fucking planet. I
tell you what, coincidental that you brought up the colonization thing.
Yeah. It all
as long as you speak to them in their language and in their way, then you're perfectly fine.
Yeah. Just gotta know sign language, I guess. I don't know if that's actual sign language or a special kind of Tusken Raider sign language, but either way, sign language.
Yeah, I guess.
Mando talks to him, barters, ends up giving them the binoculars so they can get safe passage across the place. And then they head off into the desert once again, unharmed. They come to a sudden halt once again, up a bit further. They spot a dewback with someone attached to it and being dragged along. The Mando heads down to check and finds a dead bounty hunter strung up to the thing before he begins being fired upon from a sniper. He runs to cover, taking a couple shots in the Beskar. One thing I want to point out, I think the fact that he gets shot several times in Beskar in this episode is going to be important in future episodes, or for several potential reasons. Like, it seems like they really like that shit. You know how I always point out in The Force Awakens how they really try to make sure you know how powerful Chewie's blaster is, and then when Kylo gets shot with it, I always like how it's like that whole movie, Chewie's shooting people, they're fucking getting blasted 10 feet across the way. Chewie shoots Kylo with it and he's hurt, but he's not, thrown 10 crazy. They really make a thing in that to show you how powerful that is. And I feel like this episode, they really want you to be like, Beskar can really protect you from most shots. I feel like it could be important because they do it so many times in the one episode. So he gets fired a couple times and he runs behind the sand back to old mate, and they get into cover and hide. He tells Pell, jeez, I forgot his fucking name again. What's his name? Too many names. I need a bloody Toro. Yeah, Toro. Thank you. He tells Toro to take first watch overnight, and the bounty hunter Mandalorian heads off to sleep. At night, they, I guess I was always like, did night just hit or is it like midnight? But I don't suppose it matters. But night comes and then he goes to wake up the Mando. Toro goes to wake up the Mando. And you get this whole funny scene where he's like shit talking to him and pointing a gun at him and whatever. And then I don't know if the Mando's awake the entire time or like he just wakes up.
Awake the entire time.
Yeah. I don't know if he ever slept or he was just sitting there, I guess, resting but not sleeping. But yeah, Toro tries to do this whole thing and then eventually Mando's like, "You're done now." No, I thought that was quite funny. I like that one. Then they head off in the night for this raid mission, I guess is what you want to call it. Except, of course, it's like semi-suicide run, it seems, because although they're at night, the Mando gives Toro a couple flashbangs, like basically, and Mando's got a couple flashbangs or flash, whatever they're called. And then they're like, the whole plan is to literally go across the sand, try not to get shot by her, Fennec, light up these flashlight things, flashbangs to distract her in the scope, and then just hope not to get hit. So it's like it's not really the smartest plan, but I guess it's the best they've got. And the Mando.
Let's be honest, the Mandalorian is not the smartest guy in the room.
No, I think
he's not a master tactician.
No.
You know? He just, he gets by on determination and grit.
I definitely feel like we've had it proven by now the Mando isn't the smartest guy in the room most times. But it is funny, like how aggressive he is for like like a really bad plan, really. But I guess it comes down to the fact that he knows he needs to get off the planet ASAP, because if he gets stranded on a planet like that, then as soon as he gets found by the bounty hunters, he's basically fucked, like stranded on like a backwater planet like Tatooine. Like you have no hope of.
There's nowhere to hide.
Yeah, there's nowhere to hide. So I guess he's like, well, this job can get money, YOLO a bit, I guess. Yep. So I guess they just go for it. So they head out and they do a couple shots of, letting off the flashbangs or whatever. Fennec misses most of her shots, and until eventually they get really close, and then she manages to blast the Mando off his bike by blowing up his speeder. Toro then gets up and gets into a fight with Fennec, though, and we learn that Fennec is played by Ming-Na Wen, which a lot of people, I guess, that's the other thing. I mean, we'll come back to this. We'll come back at the end of the episode, her potential, because she's not a throwaway actress, I guess, is the importance of her. She's someone that people...
She's well known.
She's well known. Yeah. She's more known than just someone for this.
Anybody else in this episode.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like for sure. Like, she's definitely more known than old Bobby Cannavale's son over here. So, that's for sure.
More well known than Amy Sedaris? Probably. Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. These days, like she was quite popular on... More well known than Pedro Pascal?
No one knows Pedro Pascal's in the show. Come on, when he takes his helmet off, people are going to be like, from Game of Thrones? Like, people are going to get a shock.
I wonder how many people don't realize who's playing the Mandalorian.
I think a lot. I guarantee a lot of people have no idea. Do you know the amount of people who probably just... Like, average people, I don't know if I'm offending average people out there. Average people don't look up actors and actresses like this sort of stuff. You know what I mean? I could almost guarantee there is a high percentage of people watching this. End of every episode says Pedro Pascal. They don't go, oh, who's that? And look it up. They just,
Cool.
They don't look it up. They don't care. So, yeah, whenever he takes his helmet off, I will be interested in how many people are like, I know him. The Viper! Oh no! Like, oh no! What if the same?
And then a very small people. The Kingsman.
I always think of him from. To me, he's more from Narcos. Yeah, than Game of Thrones. So, because he was in the most seasons.
He lasts longer.
He lasted longer than the other dude. So, yeah, we'll see how that works out. So Toro gets into a fight with Fennec, yeah, and instead of just shooting her in the fucking leg or, something, he is stupid, and then she gets one over him, and they get into a bit of a fisticuff fight. Luckily, the Mando gets back up and saves them in time, and then he throws cuffs at her and says, tie yourself up and all these sorts of things. And then she asks him, ever been to Navarro? Which at the time, and I like the way they do this in the episode, because at the time she says it, you're like, what's that mean? I don't know this planet Navarro. What is she hinting at? What's all this? However, in context, when what we learn in 5-10 minutes or whatever it is from this, Navarro is the name of the planet we spent the first 3 episodes. It's the first episode 1 and 3 on.
1 and 3, yeah.
Which I found quite interesting that they give away the name of that planet now and in like this context, because it's one of those things, I guess, if Rogue One, if they'd done the Rogue One thing of having the planet title come up with every planet, then when she says ever been to Navarro, automatically you're like, oh, like his planet. But it works a lot differently because you don't know the name. So she says ever been to Navarro and you go, what's she talking about? Like it leads to a different reaction the first time you're watching the episode than if you knew what the planet was, which was quite interesting. Of course, he's like, nah, mate. Navarro. Never heard of anything. Yep. And yeah, the audience, of course, is also like, Navarro, what? Like, I wonder if that's something real. So then they get back down, they tie her up, and they realize, of course, that they've only got 1 speeder bike left. So what's the plan? He tells Toro to go find a G-back. He says, nah, you might run off with my prize. So then the Mando heads off to find one. And then we cut to the morning, and he's still not back. And Fennec begins talking crap with Toro, making fun of the kid, basically. And then she begins pointing out that a Mandalorian escaped with big prize and caused a whole bigger fuss on Navarro. And this explains, of course, links it all together. You're like, oh. So at this stage, because once again, we've kind of talked about last week how the show is like, oh, it's been a week, but like how long were they training for? Like how long was he traveling for before he got to that planet? Like we don't know how long it's been since that big shootout on Navarro. It could be 6 months. It could be a year. I don't know. We you know what I mean? Like we really have no idea. But it's been long enough, it seems, that the infamousy of this Mandalorian that's escaped is she knows about it, and it seems like it must be a big deal.
Yeah.
It's
a well-known thing.
A well-known thing that's happening.
Within the guild.
Within the guild. It's like, he's the big Mandalorian. And she says, she's basically saying, set me free, we'll work together, take down the Mandalorian, he's worth more than I am, you'll be showered as this hero for the Bounty Guild, blah, 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 blah. And he's at first looking like, yeah, that sounds like a great plan. We should totally do that. And he begins walking towards her, and she holds out her cuffs like ready to be set free or whatever. And then he gets out his blaster and shoots her what seems directly in the stomach or something like that. Which I think is important when we'll pause it when we get to the end of the episode, but it's important to think that she's shot in the stomach. She ain't shot in the head, anything like that. She's shot in a possibly livable or protected area. I just want to say. Never know. Potentially. So then he disappears, I guess. Mando eventually shows back up and finds that her body's just lying there. And Toro's gone. So he's, of course, like, cool story. And he then heads back to the outpost. And there he finds Toro, Peli, and Yeetle in a hostage situation. And when the Mando enters, Toro, of course, comes out with guns to them all. Poor Yeetle. I don't like Yeetle in this hostage situation. Just pulling out my heartstrings in all the wrong ways. I'm like, I don't like this, don't appreciate this, don't know what's going on here. Either way, I don't like it. That's
unrealistic. Sure. Toro would have been like, oh, he's too cute. What am I going to...
Yeah, that's how you can tell he's a real asshole. He's like, no, I can't do this. It's too cute. He's willing to do it. Makes him a huge asshole. Toro says tells Amanda to put his hands up, and then tells Peli to go cuff him. As Peli goes to cuff him, she realizes that as Mando dropped his stuff, he's held a flashbang to the back of his head still and managed to get away with that. Right as she goes to cuff him, she says, "You're smarter than you look," and he's like, yeah. And then he lets off the flashbang and then dives over to the side and shoots and kills Toro. Maybe he
Very
lives
close
because
to shooting Yeatle.
yeah, very close. It was like, what happened to Yeatle? Mando runs over, checks that he's dead, appears to be dead, and then of course they're both like, what happened to Yeatle? And Pelly's looking and all this sort of stuff, and then Yeatle, of course, has just been like, I guess, thrown to the side of this container or whatever, and comes out like, oh, that was, guys, like,
that was intense.
That was intense stuff. Oh my God, like, I thought about levitating him, but nah, thought you could handle this one, Dad. Man, no, Dad, you can do it. Leave one for you.
If I could have talked, I would have said, this is not the bounty you're looking for.
Yeah, this is not the bounty you're looking for. Yeah. Yeah, because it would have made sense, because on Tatooine, Ash, I don't know if you know, like a stormtrooper had that happen to them, and that would have been good fan service.
Oh,
yeah. Tie it back in. Mando.
No, I could have sworn there were like black people, no, like just bouncy people, not stormtroopers. But you know, it's been a long time.
I mean, it's been what, like a month since we watched that. Really? Mando then searches Tora's body and finds a bunch of money. He gives all of that to her. It appears to be various different types of credits. A lot of money either way. It looked to be a lot, and obviously her face is like, yeah, that's good. That's quite good. Yeah, she seems quite happy with the amount he's getting.
And now he's leaving with no money.
Yeah, it's like, would it be smarter for him to be like, I'll keep at least
a little bit
of this potentially, you know, in case it gets shot out of freaking space again. But yeah, either way, his ship's been fixed.
Or to buy food.
Yeatle's got to eat. I mean, Yeatle does have to eat. He then takes off back into space. So yeah, like, it is a side story, but at the same time, it's like he's on his way to somewhere and he's shot out of space. Filler episode, or just literally what happened? It's literally just.
I mean, they could have read him not being shot out of space, so
they could have, but I'm just saying, it's realistically something that would happen if you've got a bunch of bounty hunters chasing after you.
And I mean, this next moment could potentially make it all.
Yeah. So the episode ends on something we usually don't have, which is a cut away from the Mando to show something else that could, like, and that's how we end the episode. We don't end the episode with Mando or Yeatle. We end the episode with a different character, because we cut back to the desert and you see Fennec. That was it. Fennec's body's still laying there, motionless. And then we see these boots approaching, and they've got a cape on. One of the shots you can see that they've what appears to be a blaster, and then we cut to black. So of course everyone on the internet is assuming that it's everyone on the internet's assuming that it's Boba Fett. So this is the last big question of the episode, which is of course, who do you think this person is? Do you think it's Boba Fett? What do you think's going on here? Do you think she's actually dead?
I think she's actually dead. I think it is Boba Fett.
What's your just cause?
I mean, they're on Tatooine. That's where he died, or was trapped in the Sarlacc pit.
I know, but do you think it makes sense for him to just come into the show randomly?
Yeah.
I mean, why would he be walking up to that body?
I don't know. Maybe he's walking from the Sarlacc pit to a place. Maybe he's only just gotten out of the Sarlacc pit 6 years later.
6 years later, he's just wandered out. He looks pretty fresh, and he's like, yeah, it's fine. I don't think it's Boba
He was
Fett.
waiting for winter, which is very uncommon in Mandal on Tatooine, because you know he's still wearing a helmet and stuff, so it's very hot under there. So I think obviously whoever the character is, they're not showing you it obviously to tease something. The main reason that everyone thinks it's Boba Fett is because of the what's the word? Shingles? I don't know. The shingles, whatever. Like the boot. Yeah, the jingling of the armor. It sounds like
that's which is how Boba Fett always sounded during the show. However, I will say what he sounds like in the movie. Sorry, what he sounds like in the movies is because George Lucas gave him a very like cowboy sounding, like, you know, like the boots coming in with the jingling. Like he gave him a very like old school. So it's like there could be a bunch of other characters that sound very similar when they walk. So that is the clean thing that everyone is using to say it's Boba Fett. Now I'm going to say. Here's my order of like things here. Number one, most likely person this is, being realistic about it, in my opinion, is Moff Gideon, which is the character that Giancarlo Esposito's playing, who we have seen in the trailer and we have not met yet. Does he look like, does a ex-Moff, because of course he's not like a proper Moff anymore, the fucking Empire's dead, but does an ex-Moff seem like a character who would wear this sort of stuff?
But what's a Moff, just for clarification's sake?
Like a Tarkin. Like Grand Moff Tarkin. Like it's a position. Like a high position within the Empire.
Imperial Army.
Yeah, Imperial. Yeah. So he was a Moff. We know that much. We've been told that much about his character. He was an ex-Moff. So, but it's like, it's 6 years later. Would he dress in the fucking same grey outfit? You know what I mean? Or something, you know, like that sort of thing? No. I'm going to say no. We know in the show he still holds a group of like really loyal stormtroopers, including Death Troopers, I think, as well. So we haven't seen any of these things show up. So that's my number one choice because there are a couple episodes of the show left. And we are yet to meet him. Yeah. And he was always played out in those trailers like the main villain or one of the main villains. We see him.
But we were played out like Gina Carino was going to be a massive factor in this season. And she's been in one episode.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But also I'm just trying to be, that's my like most realistic pick of like, all right, they're teasing next. Number 2. Couple episodes ago, weeks ago on Alderaan Explosion. Which you should be listening to because we've only got 2 episodes left. I talked about, when I was talking about The Mandalorian prior to it releasing, that I had a dream. And in the dream, I explained that I watched The Mandalorian and there was a bounty hunter in it and it made me really happy. And now that this has been teased, I'm taking my dream as a premonition and the character is going to be that of Cad Bane. The number 1 best bounty hunter in the galaxy is going to make his live screen reveal live action appearance outside of the Clone Wars. Finally, in this show, Cad Bane. Cad Bane dresses literally like a cowboy. He has a fucking hat. He has a proper cowboy Stetson or whatever on and everything. He is a cowboy. That could be him. But then number 2. That's how I'm ranking them. Here's how I'm ranking them. Number 1 for me, Moff Gideon. Number 2, Cad Bane, because I had a dream and it's a premonition officially. And number 3, I'm going to say Boba Fett because although I would put I put my old tire that Boba Fett does eventually come into play in the show, I think it's too early and it doesn't really fit the story at the moment and there's too many questions, and as soon as you chuck Boba Fett in, people are all like, and then they become obsessed with Boba Fett, and suddenly the rest of the characters don't matter, and the whole show becomes a fucking meme fest with Boba Fett and Yeetle, and does anyone care about the actual character of the Mandalorian anymore, because everyone's just obsessed with all this other shit that's going on. You put Cad Bane in, and people who watch Clone Wars like me are like, yeah, but he's also a character that you could put in for people who've never watched the Clone Wars, and it doesn't matter, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a bounty hunter that shows up. And it would make sense, because if he's still around, he's still working for the Bounty Guild, chasing after the target. Cool. The only reason not to reveal him here is because to leave it as a reveal for next week. But yeah, there's more order. And we'll see how we go next week. How that works out. So next week.
Hang on. The other person I've seen thrown up is Cobb Vanth. Someone from Aftermath. Is that a likely?
I don't know who that name is.
No?
I don't know that. I haven't read those books for so long. Is that name?
Yeah.
Who? Cobb Math? Dath?
Cobb Vanth.
Vanth?
Vanth.
Was a human male who lived around the Bell of Endor. Cobb Vanth was a human male that lived around the fucking stop giving me ads. Fuck, let me read the thing. Was a human male that lived around Time Bella Endor. Once a slave, he rose to become a sheriff of Freetown on the planet Tatooine after acquiring a set of Mandalorian armor from Jawas. And right, okay, yeah. I mean, I do remember now. Yes. That was he's not one of the main characters. That's probably why it doesn't stand out as a thing. But I mean, even just reading what I just said then, sure.
You're like, yeah, it fits the time.
Fits the time. And I would put that at number 3 and move Boba Fett down. I would give that a higher percentage than Boba Fett, to be honest. Is how I'll order them. Yeah. So slip that in at 3 and we'll see how the
come on.
Wait, how are you going to order them?
Boba Fett, though.
How are you going to order them? Get your order in.
I mean, Boba Fett seems the least likely just because it's called The Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
And why would you I mean, we've seen other Mandalorians, but why would you introduce the most famous Mandalorian? Unless they're saving him for like the season finale, we're not going to see him again until then.
Probably.
Which is a possibility.
It's probably. It's very possible that this character might not show up or be relevant next week or the week after. So.
Whole week for the rest of the season, we just get vignettes of him following,
Possibly.
Doing random shit.
Possibly.
Like in Mindhunter.
It's very possible. I'm not going to say they're a serial killer, but it's possible.
For like three seasons of this character doing just random stuff.
I think people who watch Mindhunter can deal with that better. Like I can. I'm like, yeah, these vignettes we're building. We'll get there in like 10 seasons. But I think the audience, like more people who are watching this show, they wouldn't be able to deal with that very like slow burn of a reveal. I don't think, no. But next week's episode, I can say that I think so. The official description that was released was that the Mandalorian is going to join a crew of mercenaries on a mission. That's all the synopsis says. I think most likely this is going to be a quote unquote novel filler episode. So I'm ready for that based upon that. And I also think it's probably going to be the episode with Bill Burr in it and also the Twi'lek that we see in the trailer.
I think Bill Burr's been confirmed. So.
Has he? Okay, so that makes sense. Because Bill Burr shows up in the trailer and he's got 2 guns in both his hands and he has like a third one coming off his shoulder. Looks very mercenary-like. The Twi'lek, how the fuck you like to say it, I don't know. Whoever's listening, whatever floats your fucking boat. Yeah, that all fits. So that's what I think next week's episode is. And then episode 3 and 4 are most likely going to be heavily connected. Either way, we get those episodes a lot closer.
7 and 8?
Yeah, 7 and 8. So either way, it's like we watch this episode, everyone's going to complain, oh, more filler, but then it's like you only have to wait a couple of days till episode 7 anyway, so calm your fucking fun.
Episode 7 in which Rey shows up with, because of the time travel power she's going to get in Rise of Jedi. Rise of Skywalker.
We're going to get some midichlorians is what we're going to get. That'll do for this week's episode of The Mandalorians. Thank you for joining us. You can find the show at explosionnetwork.com, youtube.com/Explosion Network, and all good podcasting services, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can also find our Star Wars podcast, All Around Explosion, available right now as we rewatch and discuss the films in the lead up to the Rise of Skywalker. This week's episode, we are giving our last discussion prior to seeing the film. So make sure you check that one out. It comes out on Thursday. You can follow the Explosion Network on Twitter at ExplosionPod, myself at Vivaladil, Vivaladil, and Ash at Ashley Hopley, ASHLEYHOVLEY. You can follow him on my Twitter as well. Fuck it. Whatever works.
Yeah.
Until next week, we have spoken.